This is Rudkowski of WeAreChange.org here in Mexico, and as we know, the opioid crisis has been devastating the United States with over 115 deaths per day. And this crisis, unlike from what you're hearing in the mainstream media, is caused by some of the most trusted members in U.S. societies, doctors, politicians, and in this video, we're not only going to address that, but also someone who survived this epidemic and now is finally healed and doing a lot better.
Chris has been here just one day, but he was here in February for 3 weeks. He was a user of several different kinds of opiates for more than 10 years, prescribed to him by the medical community for an automobile accident that he had. His course with us ran in such a way that he wanted to fix the problems with his neck. And he wanted to fix the problems with the opiate dependency, which was huge. And when he got here, he was like this. He couldn't move his neck. He couldn't get it off his chest. When he left, he was like this, and everything was moving around.
Okay, so I'm here with Chris, and as we know, the opioid crisis has had a devastating effect, especially in recent years, on Western countries, specifically in the United States. And Chris, I would call you a survivor of the opioid crisis, and finally you're doing so much better right now. How did it all start? What happened?
It was from an accident, work-related. Got rear-ended, and I ended up in 2001. I had 7 surgeries on my neck and 1 on my lower back. It was pretty much opiates the whole last 20 years, pretty much.
What kind of medication did your doctors prescribe you, and where did the addiction start?
It was mostly Oxycontin, oxycodone, fentanyl pops, methadone, pretty much all of it.
He was on thousands of milligrams a day of things like methadone, oxycodone, Oxycontin. He was not on Subutex or Suboxone, but we had all those things to deal with. So this addiction had gone on for a really long time.
It was a tough time, I guess. You know, it's hard to get off of it because I was on it for so long. It pretty much almost killed me back a couple months ago when I came down here to get offered the medication. Yeah, I was pretty close to dead from it. I think the medication becomes more of a problem than what you're originally taking it for after a while. It takes control of you. Yeah, it makes it really tough to live. At the beginning, it wasn't a problem. I got more than I needed. But in the last couple of years, I really started cutting back on it. So it became difficult. And it kind of controls your life because, you can't do anything without your medication. And I just got sick of that whole thing and decided to try getting off it again. I went through it once a couple years ago. I was in Miami, Florida for over 2 months. It was a long process, and even 6 months later I was still struggling. Then I had to have another surgery. I was back on pain medication.
He got relief that he hadn't gotten at other clinics and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on.
Yeah, I think that was like a couple $100,000 the insurance company paid for that. Because overall it was, I guess, cheaper than the medication, but, it lasted about 7 months until I got hurt again.
He was off the opiates in a week's time. So for the 3 weeks that he was with us, he continued to thrive every day. He lost about 30 pounds. He looked fabulous when he left here. He had such mental clarity. He was looking forward to living a life again.
Then I came here back in mid-February for 3 weeks, and I got off the medication and never felt better. I got rid of all my pain with stem cells and the ibogaine and kratom, which is like a natural, sort of like an opiate, but there's no harmful effects to it. They did the ozone therapy, vitamin IV drips to help detox your body. And they use like electromagnetics, Rife technology.
We designed his program specifically for him because of the amount of medication he was taking, his age, his debility, and his mental state.
Here, the ibogaine really makes a huge difference. It cuts the cravings, the withdrawal symptoms. It was a much easier process and much faster. Plus all the other stuff they do to detox you and actually heal you physically. So yeah, it was a big difference. It's kind of a gradual. It took about a week to totally get off all the medication. But I would say, my overall experience was much easier than, without the ibogaine. 'Cause that, like I said, that makes a big difference. Actually came back just for kind of a follow-up, do some more ozone to help detox my body more. I'm gonna quit smoking this time too, using the ibogaine. Yeah, I mean, it's been a tough road, and I feel for the people who are addicted to it, and I think there's a lot of change coming, so hopefully, and if they could legalize ibogaine in the States would be good, because, I experienced it both ways, and I'd much rather go down and use the ibogaine method, because it really works. That's probably why they won't, legalize it in the States. Yeah, it's all by design, I guess, Any pharmaceuticals aren't in your best interest, I feel.
Yeah, it really does feel like that. It really feels like this is a problem that is kind of made possible with the most trusted elements in society, whether it's, the doctors, the politicians, the police out there, who, I don't know, some people would say have engineered this crisis.
And the medication was $1.5 million in a 10-year time span. And that was, fortunately, I had insurance, so I didn't have to, it wasn't out of pocket, but still, it was a lot of money.
Yeah, that's
And the surgeries, they're over $100,000 each time.
Wow.
So, yeah, and it just did nothing but made me worse the whole time. Yeah, a big problem is like most of the pharmaceuticals end up on the streets, and people get crazy amounts of money for them. So I see a lot of people go to heroin because it's cheaper. Yeah, and just another alternate. If it's not one thing, you're doing something else,
Yeah.
I didn't get caught up in that, but I know a lot of people who have. It's a big problem. Not to mention all the deaths it causes, overdoses, and yeah, it's not good. It's cheaper too, because the pharmaceutical pills on the streets are really expensive. So what they're doing, heroin, they're cutting it with fentanyl a lot. That's what make people overdose mostly.
Wow.
The fentanyl they put in the heroin, that's very dangerous. If you're not tolerant to opiates, it can kill you quick. Yeah, I didn't think there's much of a difference between legal drugs like medications and illegal drugs. It's all just about money, pretty much. Somebody's making money from it.
Yeah.
Destroying lives with it too.
Your story in particular, being inside of it and then getting out, could inspire other people who don't see a way out to see an example of someone who was in it, got out, and is now finally a lot better.
Right. Luckily, a lot of people don't make it.
Yeah.
I barely made it. But I feel good now. I'm free from it. It was a tough journey, but this way is definitely a lot easier, though.
Yeah.
If you come to Mexico and do it, I wish everybody luck in their journey and getting off opiates. It's bad news. Pretty much affects every aspect of your life, You're not really living. It's pretty much literally dying all the years I was on them. It's not a good thing, no. It's nothing I'd want to go through again.
Yeah.
That's a big motivator to keep me from ever doing any medication. Pretty much any medication I won't do now. A week to buy drugs or supplement ones I was getting, in the last couple of years especially, it's a fraction of the cost just to come here and get off of it.
Yeah.
Because they're talking like $1,000 a week easily you could spend on supplementing your medication.
So the idea is the atmosphere is very calming, the patient relaxes. This IV ozone method is standard for the industry. So it's just a little bit of blood out, mix it, ozone in. This shouldn't take more than a minute.
Is rectal ozone just as effective?
94% as effective, according to Dr. Frank Schallenberger, who I have had the extreme honor and pleasure to be in his training classes and certification classes. He, in the United States, he and Dr. Robert Rowan are the two most well-known IV practitioners in the United States. Robert Rowan's in Santa Rosa, California. Yippee, Santa Rosa. And Dr. Schallenberger is in Carson City, Nevada. And Schallenberger gives certification classes to medical professionals, doctors, nurses, phlebotomists, that sort of thing. And people come from all over the world to take his certification classes. So these guys are the definitives in the United States.